We have an audio system, but nothing to listen to.
And now we have nothing to look at. Couldn't be better.
Make quite a difference to have audio link up on the scanner again.
But who to trust?
I know a place.
Perfect.
Not the most appealing.
If I'm to die, I want to prepare myself mentally. And there is an easier alternative.
Pull to open.
Pull to open.
Yes, and what do you do?
They have their orders.
They were both overwrought.
The analysis checks out.
You're sure?
Yes.
Sounds perfect.
Let's see if it works.
Here come the drums!
Hello, and welcome to Pull to Open, an ongoing quest to watch all of Doctor Who in random order. I'm Pete Paschal.
And I'm Chris Taylor, and we're a couple of guys, a couple of Doctor Who fans, a couple of journalists bouncing around the Doctor Who universe for, 4 seasons, 5 seasons now? I can't even count. We
Almost a complete 4. Yes.
Almost.
That is our
4.
arc so far. Our arc has been to...
our arc. I like that. That might be a little bit of foreshadowing for what we're doing this week. But Pete, tell the fine folks at home where we've been on this random adventure so far.
Well, previously on Pull to Open, 3 stories ago, we were at the Capaldi adventure Knock Knock, which definitely had some knocking going on. And a fellow podcaster, Brian Young, knocked on the door of Pull to Open and visited us to help us commentate on a little bit of Capaldi action there in his last season.
That's right.
We jumped,
and he gained entry to season 10.
Yeah, exactly. He hadn't seen it before, which was kind of cool. I like it when we can reach out, and with a lot of our fans, certainly on TikTok, we can sort of open new worlds of Doctor Who to them, particularly the classic series. This was a nice time where we actually got to do it with a fellow podcaster. So that was
absolutely awesome. And then we kind of closed the door on people visiting new worlds of the Doctor the following week.
Yeah, the following week. Yep. Legend of the Sea Devils was where we were at there. That was one of the almost brought us to like the current point in the show, because there was only one story after that so far, The Power of the Doctor. But really, this was just a continuation of the Randomizer's pirate fixation. And
regular listeners know that we have a curse on us until we go to curse the black spot. The reasons for this curse are lost in history, but that is the case. We are in a pirate kick. But then the Randomizer decided that it didn't want pirates. It fled from the pirates after watching the mess that was Legend of the Sea Devils, and it fled
from the pirates to its comfort food, Peter Capaldi, again.
The arms of its favorite Doctor, and perhaps the best actor ever to play the Doctor. But we'll get to that.
Well, showed us like perhaps one of the best hidden gems of his era, which was from Series 8, Flatline, which surprised kind of both of us that we liked it so much, and it ended up being kind of a surprise banger, a Viscount banger, our highest rating we both gave to that episode. It was just really, really satisfying.
Would not have expected that going in, but that's the joy of Pull to Open. The revisiting in random order takes you out of the context of the season. And also in the Flatline podcast, we spent a lot of time talking about season 20 of the old show, and Pete had some things to say up in that joint, given that it was his first Doctor Who season. You never forget your first. You had a lot of stuff to say about the release of the Blu-ray,
right?
And the Randomizer was listening, not to the challenges that we give it at the end of the show, but it was listening to your love of season 20. Because where did it take us next?
Took us to season 20 and Serial 1, the first story of season 20, Arc of Infinity.
And oh my goodness, I should say. Thank you. Just came off with that one off the cuff. We'll have plenty more Omega jokes as we go. But it was the kind of the reverse of Flatline for me. Sometimes this random
it is
adventure,
an arc, Chris. It's not flat at all. It's a curve. So, of course, it's the opposite of Flatline.
The story arc of Pull to Open. Oh, hey, there's another reason why the Randomizer took us there. Love it. Nice. It's trying to teach us maths. and geometry, perhaps. But yeah, it's kind of the reverse of the experience that we have at Flatline for me. I hated this one, Pete. I'm sorry.
Oh my God! Wow. Well, save it for the rating. Let's see if I can pull you out from
TLDR on that one. Yeah, see if you can pull me out of the antimatter universe.
I'm smelling some Ogrons approaching here. But
there's an army of them.
But just a little background on the randomizer, and I wouldn't say it's obsessed with season 20, but we've definitely done more of this season. This is Davison's second season as the Doctor. More of that season than his other two. So we've already done
Mordrin of that season.
Okay, that wasn't quite as good.
Sorry. Oh my God. Sorry, continue.
Modern Undead. So the first appearance of Turlo. We've done Terminus. As well as the King's Demons. So we've done a good chunk of season 20 so far. So the randomizer certainly likes Davison, and this season in particular. We've done other chunks of Davison on season 19 and season 21 too. But I think the whole announcement of the new Blu-ray has, put some season 20 spring in the randomizer step.
Yeah, the randomizer brought
30
to you
years
by
ago.
The randomizer brought to you by BBC Enterprises. I feel like, even though the randomizer is totally random, it's sort of taking side deals. Like it's getting the advertising dollars. We're not. Hey, BBC
like
Enterprises, come sponsor us directly. Talk to us, not the randomizer.
Yeah, we'll put it to good use.
Our creature.
we'll get one extra Easter egg for the people on YouTube. So before we get to that, I just want to tell everyone first, if you're just here for our commentary on Arc of Infinity, go ahead and check the show notes, and there will be the timestamp prominently there to tell you exactly when we start talking about Arc of Infinity. And if you're watching on YouTube, just scroll down a bit. It's on the notes on the YouTube video, and you can cut ahead. But I would also like to just remind listeners, hey, there is a great way for you to support Pull to Open, and that is, of course, by leaving a review. Yeah.
On the podcast
in whatever podcast app.
Apple Podcasts.
You take over.
Hey, this is my bit. It says here, it's my bit.
This is your bit. This is your bit.
This is my bit.
You're right.
So, hey, listeners. Hey, we're in the full Pull to Open feedback loop. And this is what you don't want to fast forward. You don't want to sleep on this, leaving a review for Pull to Open if you're listening to us. And we know that you are. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, a rating is especially helpful. If you just happen to have Apple Podcasts on your phone, fire it up. Leave us a 5-star review. It's so much easier than thinking about any other number. And that'll get the show visible to more listeners, eager for great discussion. We've had our arc of infinite listeners is we're well on the way to infinity, but we need more. We need more appreciation for the show. That's the best way to do it. Share it with a friend. Share it with a cousin who's visiting Amsterdam, and because what else are they going to listen to as they're running around the canal sides of Amsterdam? And
that's what they needed in that scene. They needed some AirPods and a podcast. That would have made the time better. Time pass a lot easier in that scene. Now that I think about it, it's like, all right, Teague and Nissa just grab these and here's some cue something up on my space iPhone.
I love it. You know what? I was recently re-listening to our podcast where we talked about the Walkman in Lie of the Land, where they're trying to get the monk's pyramid, right? Blocking out the fake news, and they list the Walkman, and podcasts really would have been better for that. They just put you into this sort of nice soporific mood. Anyway, we're not soporific here on Pull to Open. We have lots of fun.
We have lots of fun, and I got to say, anyone who cut, by the way, to the commentary on Arc of Infinity is really missing out right now.
Oh my god!
Because it is time, ladies and gentlemen, for the Humoji challenge.
Tough week.
This is it.
I've got 2 challenges. Yep. This is the first. Okay.
This is the time where I get to torture Chris and throw a bunch of emojis at him, and then make him guess the Doctor Who show title that those emojis represent. And I have some sympathy for you on this one.
Oh, God. Okay. Better get ready with the hints. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So there might be some hints we need, but then again, there's little bits of it. Okay. So this particular challenge comes at us from Jack. He gave us a few a little bit ago, and that's Jack Hustwaite on Twitter, or X, as I believe it's known now.
No.
And this one is 4 emojis.
Okay.
So you're ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. First one. Metal key, regular modern key.
Okay.
Second emoji. Old-timey key with kind of tooth-like jaw. What do you call those? The part of the key that turns the lock.
Yeah. The teeth, I guess, will for want of a better name. Yeah.
Old-timey key. So modern key, old-timey key. And then sailboat. And then United States flag.
Oh, okay. I thought I had it there. I was thinking the Keys of Marinus.
Boom! It is the Keys of Marinus.
Thank goodness for that. Where does the US come in? I don't know the story.
Well, Marine.
Oh, Marine
Us.
US. Oh, wow. Nice one, Jack. Thank you.
There it is.
Thank you also.
Good call. I guess the
so
keys.
easy.
The keys really give it away, don't they?
Yeah.
Because it's like I thought you wouldn't get it because the flag threw me too. When I looked at it, I was just going up and down the codex trying to figure it out, and I just something clicked after it was like, Marine Us, got it.
Yeah, key to time was the first thing in my head, and I'm like, oh wait, that's not a story, that's a season. Maybe it's a key to time reference. And I'm like frantically trying to think of all the stories in that season. But no, that was an easy one. A title that is hard to forget once you've seen it, even if you haven't seen the actual Keys to Marinus itself, but perhaps we'll get there. Thank you so much, Jack. You too can leave a Humoji challenge for me to puzzle over. You can break my few remaining brain cells in future pull to opens, and you will get listed in the codex next to that story title. So yeah, please leave Humoji challenge as your review, and then you're doing double duty and you're helping us out in 2 ways. We really appreciate that. And if you're listening on Spotify, you can help us out in yet more ways. You can not only rate the show, you can vote in the feature that we call Poll to Open, where you give your rating to the story that we were talking about. And we have some results. Results are slightly delayed as our, election officials check in, weigh the results, make everything certain. But we do have results for Legends of the Sea Devils. Pete, do you want to give us the live election report from the count?
So, by a landslide, the winner among our 5 ratings we only have 5 ratings, everyone, by the way, that go from the top Viscount Banger, best of the best, all the way down to Ogron or Fixed Point in Time. By a landslide, Legend of the Sea Devils is an Ogron! A big, stinky Ogron. Not a good episode of Doctor Who.
Now.
And definitively, this is not just first past the post. This is the majority of votes. A full 60% of votes went for Ogron on this one. There was some people thought it was a Dalek. Very few, roughly around 15%. Same with Professor Hader. And a tinier proportion.
Fixed point in time. So
that's right. No Viscount Bangers.
It's interesting. Fixed point in time, we usually give that to people who are, nostalgic about a particular show and can't read for that reason. Can you really be nostalgic for Doctor Who that was on 2 years ago? A year ago? Or so. Yeah. Interesting that, new fans being created all the time. Nostalgia for Doctor Who being created all the time.
I'd suggest that probably the people who rated a Fixed Point in Time probably think about the Dr. Yaz relationship and are a little bit I just don't want to judge it either way. You know, like maybe
Yeah.
they just sort of admire that the show went there, but also are conscious that this show, this particular story was not great.
We did mention that relationship, by the way, in our side trip last week. Please check it out if you haven't already. The 10 times the Doctor was cruel and cowardly, and the Doctor's
that definitely
qualifies. Qualifies as one of those 10. Now, speaking of ratings on Legend of the Sea Devils, I'm a bit of a little Sea Devil myself in the way that I like to invent new ratings. And the one that felt right for this one was that it's beautiful. It's a love. There was so much money was spent, lovely sets, great costumes. The color was gorgeous. The under the sea part, like that, was almost Disney-esque. Amazing stuff for Doctor Who. So I suggested that even though the story was tissue thin, it was kind of like beautiful wallpaper that just looked at you and wanted you to admire it a lot. And you could almost hear it saying, moisturize me, moisturize me. So I suggested a brand new rating called the Lady Cassandra. Lady Cassandra from New Earth and End of the World. New Who fans are pretty familiar with her. If you started from the beginning, she's pretty prominent there. Played by Zoe Wanamaker, one of my favorite actresses of all time. So yeah, I was gung ho for Lady Cassandra. Pete, it's fair to say you were not.
It's fair to say, I think I was not. I've got 5 ratings, and now I guess we're going to have a 6th because we put the choice. We're a democracy now, by the way, everyone, and we put the choice to the fans.
That's right.
And it looks like from the poll in the
Twitter.
Spotify, we put it in a couple places. So we put it out on Twitter, and we put it out a question on Spotify. And in both places, it looks like the Lady Cassandra rating got favorable reviews. The rating got favorable ratings. Just barely, I'm going to point out. This is like a 5-4 split on the Supreme Court, okay? Because we have basically like I'm looking at the poll right now we did on Twitter, and it's roughly like 57% to 43% in favor of the new rating.
Yeah, I got to add to that 57.1% versus 42.9 because we're going to fight over every 0.1% here.
Yes.
Yeah, this is, I got to admit, this is not a landslide victory like it was for the Ogron rating on Legend of the Sea Devils. This may be the thing that tears Pull to Open apart at the seams as we divide Brexit like into our camps, pro and anti Lady Cassandra. Yeah. Sorry about this, folks. It's there. I would like to read a comment from a certain Pete Patchell who commented on Spotify. Please no.
And I will say my capitalization was perhaps a bit reserved compared to Mr. Chris Taylor, who put "hell yeah" in all caps. Interesting.
I gotta say, when I left that rating, I didn't know that my name would be recorded. Spotify comments.
Well, I'm just going to read. We got a few regulars on the listeners for the pod comment too, and I'd just like to read out at least one from Ethan Melton, who comments on also on YouTube sometimes and has some really great things to say. Ethan says, "No, I think it would complicate the rating system too much, and I think the idea of Doctor Who that you put in the background isn't very interesting." I mirror much of this, and mostly it's in my opinion is based on let's keep it simple, right? 5 ratings is already a good amount. I think that's good enough variety.
I was gonna say that ship has sailed, my friend. That ship sailed a long time ago.
My son Jack is constantly like, "Why do you even have the Professor Hater? It's the same as an Ogron. You should just have one bad rating." And it was like, okay.
No, the Professor Hater is so useful. The proof is in the pudding. I mean, this is. I didn't just come out with this out of thin air. Okay, people, I'd like to announce on the Victory platform. I'd like to talk to my opponents in this election, reach across the aisle and say, this was really a heartfelt desire to come up with a rating for Doctor Who episodes like The Mutants that we had previously done, where I felt like it's beautiful. Mutants are colorful, groovy, and the story's rubbish, but I liked looking at it, and I could imagine if I had a party full of Doctor Who fans, this would be the kind of thing you put on the background, right? It's wallpaper, it's TV wallpaper. So I was already thinking about that before Legend of the Sea Devils. It was a feeling in search of a rating, which was also the case for the Professor Hater. Like, I feel like there are certain Doctor Who stories that you love to hate. That's kind of what the Professor Hater is. It does teach you something, or they tried something. You want to reward it. So yeah, I'm going to defend every new rating that we add to the system. And you know what? It also gives us more side trips where we have to go back and retcon our ratings.
Well, listen, I as the as the person who has to cede victory here, all I'll say is your first mistake was turning on the TV at parties. Just don't do it. Just leave it off. People can, converse among themselves and do whatever, and, you can have different lights, but TVs at parties, no, don't do that.
Strip your wallpaper while you're about to take colorful things away. People do not like a nice colorful surround.
Well, you can do wallpaper. I don't know if you'd want to do a Doctor Who story as a wallpaper, but we're doing it. So it's a natural rating. We now have 6 ratings in the Pull to Open rating system, which of course will necessitate another retcon episode in some future season where we go back and apply the Cassandra on various things that we didn't get a chance to the first time around. Awesome. Time can be rewritten, even in the Pull to Open universe.
That's right. And I do think that what this really is, it's all of these new ratings are kind of springing out of the Ogron. Because I think we are generally positive.
That is a weird image just in my head.
Imagine them coming out of that monster that the Ogron worships in Frontier in Space. They're spewing out of that. Now, we're a generally positive podcast, and we do like to not denigrate something if we can kind of find a reason around it.
Right.
I'm going to be hard-pressed to do that with Arc of Infinity, I will just tell you now. But we try, we try to be generally positive in our outlook. So it's, instead of rating something an Ogron, like the multiple versions of that, like the Fixed Point in Time is that, Professor Hater is that. So think positive thoughts about Doctor Who, people.
Okay. Well, for those of us that have us on the TV as wallpaper, you might be watching us on YouTube. And if you're not, that's a thing you can do. Check us out there at youtube.com/pull-to-open, where you can see us. In addition to listen to us, you can also, that's a great place to leave one of those emoji titles that we like to torture Chris with all the time. And I'm really desiring to do that again right now for some reason. But you can leave comments. We like to read comments out on the show. And if you are watching on YouTube, here's your reminder to please like the video that you are watching right now. Subscribe if you haven't, and go ahead and hit that bell icon if you want some notifications every time we have new content.
Yes.
Smash
that button for our controversy here that we are generating.
Chris, where else can people leave comments and emoji titles?
Oh, you know what? They can do it on TikTok if they like at Pull to Open, or Twitter. I'll say it again on Twitter at Pull to Open 63, Instagram and Threads at Pull to Open 63, and Facebook at Pull to Open 63. Drop us a line, drop us a Humoji challenge. Please tell us why Lady Cassandra is your favorite character of all time and deserves immortalization in a rating system. And speaking of your desire to seek revenge and torture me for the Lady Cassandra rating, I think it's time. It's time.
It's time.
It's time for time.
Been looking forward to this for the last 2 minutes. That's right. It's time for TLDW, how we begin all of our commentaries, which is Too Long Didn't Watch, Too Long Doctor Who, where one of us will summarize in record time the plot of the Doctor Who story we're about to talk about. And this week, that person is one Chris Taylor. Are you ready, sir? Awesome.
Well, I'd like to argue that. I'd like to argue. So normally we give 30 seconds per classic series story. However, I'd like to argue that this thing has infinity in the title. Therefore, I should be given infinity seconds to explain
You
this.
fooled me with Legend of the Sea Devils, and I only gave you the extra 15 seconds out of self-interest. So that's not happening this time. You got this. You got this.
Don't
It's
make me bring in
Amsterdam.
my shadow proclamation lawyers. Okay.
Running.
It's
Time Lords.
this.
Boom, Jared. I just did it.
found
I just
this
did you
one.
TLDW.
Amsterdam, Time Lords, Peter Davison ×2. Boom. Yeah. Okay. I'll take that one. All right. So we move on to our commentary. Now let's do this thing. I found this story particularly unsticky. I will just say that. So I am standing here not 100% sure that I can recall it all, even now. Even after having read episode summaries just before we recorded this. I don't think I can do it, but let's see.
We're about to find out just what did stick here in the official pull to open summary of Arc of Infinity in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so we're on Gallifrey, and there's a creature that we do not yet know is Omega, last seen in the Three Doctors in antimatter space and driven a bit mad. And he's got a Time Lord traitor helping him get the Doctor's biorhythms or whatever the heck it is out of the Matrix. And the Doctor and Nissa are in the TARDIS, and then they go into something called the Arc of Infinity, where I guess Omega gets his imprint or something, latches onto him, and then Doctor's recalled to Gallifrey, and they're like, no, we gotta execute you, dude. And by the way, here's this humorless Commander Maxwell who looks very familiar, perhaps, to you in the future. But they think they execute him, but no, the Doctor's actually been taken into the Matrix, where Omega's like, I'm going to let you go, but like, just don't interfere with my plans. And Doctor's like, no, I'm going to stop you, and then Omega lets him go anyway.
1 minute.
And meanwhile, alongside all of this, Tegan is in Amsterdam because her cousin Colin is missing, and she's with a friend. The police don't want to investigate, and she's trying to find him. And what's happened to this dude? He's become a servant of Omega for some god awful reason. And then this all ends in Amsterdam with the Doctor, Tegan, and Nissa running around after Omega, who has taken on Peter Davison's appearance and is falling apart and is looking at barrel organs, and they're chasing after him because they've found the Time Lord traitor by this point, and oh god, and they just have to wrap things up. And the Doctor's like, trying not to kill Omega, but then Omega wants death, and something happens that the Doctor shoots him, I guess, and he blows up, and then the Doctor decides to take Tegan back on the TARDIS again with him without even really mentioning what happened.
Time.
Well, I got
that. Normally I'd say good job, but in this case,
I am just glad that I got to time flight, like right at the end there. Like that was the point at which, in watching Arc of Infinity, I was like, well, what the hell, Doctor? You're just going to like not remember that you dropped her off at Heathrow Airport and didn't say goodbye? Anyway,
right.
That's where my brain went for Arc of Infinity. Most of Arc of Infinity was anywhere else other than Arc of Infinity.
I could tell your heart wasn't really in it. You did actually get to surprisingly get most of the story beats, I think.
Yeah.
Just the sort of unsurety of like what the relevance of them and why they were happening, I think, is probably what affected your summary a bit. Arc of Infinity, it's definitely, I would say, not a great opener to season 20. No. The season that is it's this 20th anniversary of the show. They're very aware that it's the 20th anniversary of the show. They want to do some homages. Yeah, they want to bring stuff back and really, tap into the show's rich history, which this ostensibly does by having the Time Lords and then bringing back, of course, the villain from the classic 10th anniversary episode, The Three Doctors.
You say, of course. However, anyone watching this show would have had to have remembered all the way back 10 years without any, one repeat of the Three Doctors. But yeah,
in Australia, in Canada.
Okay, Australia and Canada, we got Doctor Who 24 hours a day, and it was this Doctor Who utopia. Oh, not that I'm still bitter about that as a Brit. that we didn't. I mean, the BBC could have had a Doctor Who channel. They had so much content. Anyway, yeah, well, it's probably a good thing I didn't get to see this one again. All the three Doctors, like, you know, I don't know that would withstand multiple screenings.
Well, where I was going with that is that they want to do these big epic things. They wanted to do something that was, you know, relatively huge in terms of the show, and you really just walk away from this one thinking, why didn't that feel epic? Like, why is this? It just seems low stakes and kind of dumb and bland. Honestly, I'll say that this is probably the blandest Gallifrey has ever looked in the entire series. It's hard to know what the right comparison is. When you get to those Time Lord scenes, you feel like it's kind of just some sort of, I don't know, some hotel ballroom with a little extra marble, you know, like it just doesn't feel right. Like it just doesn't feel grand. Like, remember the Panopticon set in the Fourth Doctor era? Like, sure, it's done in the 70s, but you know, like they did something that's like, oh, okay, this is a kind of a big deal. It's kind of there's a dais and there's places for people to stand, and there's a balcony, and there's groups can sort of go around, and like, you get it. You know, it's like, okay. This is a big deal.
There's one scene on Gallifrey. It kind of looks like a church meeting where they've just sort of laid out these, like, you know, little crappy plastic chairs, you know, that just, you know, and they all go and sit down on it. And Barusa, I guess, says, I don't believe he's Barusa for a second in any of this. It doesn't feel Barusa-ish, just as it doesn't feel like Gallifrey. And they sit down in these crappy chairs, and the Barusa's like, the High Council of the Time Lords is now in session. And you're like, really? could you not get any grander chairs for the High Council? Like, it just felt like you're about to talk about Tupperware.
And is the High Council like four guys? Like, you know, I mean, and
a lady.
And a lady, yeah. I mean, I'm using guys in the generic, but I mean,
for numbers.
It's like
time lady.
Well, I remember, like, in The Deadly Assassin, they would gather. There were groups, right, with each of the colors, and yes, that was sort of supposedly I think it's like the entire cabinet or something. So maybe it's not just the High Council, but you just wanted more of a sense. Like, why not go for more of a Parliament type feel, right? Yeah. And again, that obviously is going to cost you money in terms of sets and extras, and you got to sparse that around throughout the season. So maybe they just didn't have the budget on this one, but it also is like, well, then, you know, why try to do something super epic with the Time Lords if you're just not going to pay for it, and or blow all your money to give everyone plane tickets to Amsterdam is really what ended up happening.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about why this is such a mess and the background to it. So the writer is Johnny Byrne, who also did Keeper of Traken. And I believe this he was commissioned to do this by Eric Saywood, was the script editor at the time. And he had seen Keeper of Traken, but not realized that it was Chris Bidmead who basically rewrote that from scratch. Like, it was major editing job. So didn't know it was Johnny Byrne. So there's a lot of, not discussing things between script editors. There really ought to be a meeting of all Doctor Who script editors where you can pass on information like that. And meanwhile, John Nathan Turner just doesn't care about what the story is. He just wants to go to Amsterdam. He wants to do another City of Death. Right, that was what was sort of in his head. City of Death, set in Paris, really well-regarded Doctor Who story. Like, obviously the magic part of that was going to a European city.
You sure he didn't just want to go to Amsterdam? Like, I feel like this might be the first of one of these sort of notorious John Nathan Turner. Hey, it would be fun to go to this place. Why don't I just write a story or commission a story that takes place there? And I feel like he's done that in every season, pretty much up until he sort of ran out of money. And even in season 19, where they don't do a lot of location stuff, like, he does the Concorde thing, right? Because he thinks it'd be kind of cool to go to Concorde. Like,
that's what we've come out. He's learned the wrong lesson from season 19, which is like, I'm just going to spend my money on going somewhere cool or getting a cool location. In this case, Concorde. We're going to get the first Concorde on British television, and who cares about the story? Who cares if we have the special effects to do 2 Concords as required by the script in primeval Earth? Anyway, so that's why they go to Amsterdam, and it's just it's like Johnny Byrne's original script, which I know you've looked at as well. It's sort of kind of more well regarded than Arc of Infinity is. It had this
the original story.
Yeah.
So
story that he submitted.
Yeah, it was totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Go ahead.
it's about this. It was kind of a cool use of Amsterdam, I thought, much cooler than what they ended up with. Which was like they arrive. I believe they arrive in Amsterdam in the future, and they find that there's it's a future dystopia where there's this ruler who turns out to be a figure called the Avatar, who gains its energy when the Doctor regenerates. So that's interesting. We love us some regeneration stories here on Pull to Open, and regeneration storylines were to feature sort of in Mordred Undead later this season. And this could have been something cool along that too. It is eventually in that script, the Doctor overcomes the Avatar by reliving his most recent regeneration. Now, how about that? Would be an awesome story. Like, that's talking about that's basically a metaphor for trauma therapy, right? You just have to relive the trauma that you go through, and the monster goes away, right? It's so that's got some interesting, deep adult themes to it to kind of would have made this, I think, a much more lasting story. But we didn't get that.
Well, I like what they did with regeneration and regeneration energy in Mordred Undead. So it seems like elements of that story sort of made their way there. But I think just regeneration in general is just such a interesting, rich thing to explore. And they've done a little bit of that, certainly with, well, maybe not so too great effect with the Timeless Children and that whole arc. But I mean, I'm almost like surprised it took them to this season. It took them 20 years to really sort of start doing anything sort of interesting with that. And the new series has gone a little overboard with like being fast and loose with what regeneration energy can do. Right. But I like the idea of other races besides the Time Lords being fascinated and interested in this sort of way they achieve immortality. You'd think there'd be more of that. This more of like, hey, Time Lords, one of the greatest powers they have is they're basically immortal. They're forever avoiding accidents. You kind of want to see a little more of that subterfuge and like the people who are what you might call like time aware, like Time Lord aware, constantly striving for that and trying to develop diabolical plots to capture this technology, because it's obviously possible. Because what's her name, Tectuan or whatever her name was, did it to supposedly the Doctor, I guess, and then got her power and gave it to the Time Lords. I mean, if the Timeless Child storyline is to be believed.
Oh boy, let's not go there. But let's. But certainly, this notion of a monster that feeds off the Doctor's regeneration energy. I love that idea, because that's new Who-ish in the sense of exploring the ramifications of the Doctor blundering around the universe the way that he does, suggesting that there are more consequences than he is aware of. Feels so new Who-ish. Would love to have seen that explored in the classic series, but no, it was all blown away. And why? Because they wanted a returning villain. And it was a diktat that came down, and it wasn't even JNT who suggested it. It was this. Was his name Ian Levine? He was like this fan. He was like the fan ambassador, I guess, to JNT. He was like, ooh, Omega, ooh, yeah, we haven't seen him in a while. I think,
and you think like JNT is
options and.
Yeah, and JNT is coming off a very successful reboot of the Cybermen just now, so I think he's a little bit on like, oh, what else can I pull out of the Doctor Who mythos and like tweak a bit and restore? I gotta say, I don't hate that they used Omega. I think it's a fine sort of well to go back to here and there. I mean, not really a well. There's only been like 2 or 3 stories, maybe one more if you count the novels or something, on bringing Omega back. And getting and mining stuff from that. I got to think. I will say, like, having started at season 20, this was like I think this was my first taste of Omega, because again, like when I was first watching Pertwee, I was sort of in and out, and I think I saw this before I saw the Three Doctors, and then you sort of seeing that backwards. I think probably it's not as great a reveal, but it is still decent reveal. You do get like, oh, there's some history here, and I think it's referencing an old episode. And I remember the first time I saw it thinking like, oh wow, I look forward to watching whatever episode the Omega's from, because this is clearly a callback to that.
Yeah, I mean, you sort of get that. You get no explanation of Omega. That is the number one most infuriating thing of Arc of Infinity, is that the stakes are never truly explained. It's a lot of technobabble about antimatter and the Matrix.
You do get Hedden saying he's the first and greatest of us all, the one who gave us mastery of time and was then shamefully abandoned in return. So like that's your 2-second elevator pitch on who Omega is, which I think does its job. You know, it is a little like, oh wow, so this guy, he's basically the first Time Lord or something like that, and he's the greatest in a sense. Like even though Rassilon, Omega, there's a, you know, I guess maybe a debate on which one is more powerful and more influential. But it does give you that quick summary. And I remember thinking at the time, like, oh, yeah, okay, this guy has some kind of serious power. But it turns out it's like more reputation than anything else.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I'm just not ready to let go of that notion of like, you know, even if it's Omega, maybe have Omega like trying to pick up on the Doctor's regeneration signature and doing that. And, you know, maybe, you know what? I mean, I'm just headcanoning this all over the place, which is kind of a sure sign that it's the script is bad if I'm, you know, headcanoning at the rate of 1 a minute. Yeah, just have the Watcher in here as well. The Watcher was never explained. The notion of, because here we are in Davison era. Davison will in the next season become the first Doctor to regenerate without some sort of aid there, right? There's always been an aid from Pertwee to Baker. There was, you know, the little floating, what's his name? Then there was
Humoji,
you know,
right?
The Time Lords did it, and you know, when Troughton regenerates, explicitly says that the TARDIS helped. You know, so this would be an opportunity to kind of bring in a little more mystique around regeneration, right? To go from a regeneration that was aided to one that wasn't. You know, this kind of might be the crux point on which that would hang, and we could get some sort of explanation for why it goes from one.
Well, maybe I don't know. Well, first of all, I don't think did Hartnell didn't really have an aid though, right? Like Hartnell just sort of renews himself.
Like I said, Troughton says, yeah, the TARDIS helped me renew myself, or something like that.
Well, arguably, like Davison was in the TARDIS when he regenerated. Wait.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't. Sorry. When Baker.
No, he was.
Well, that was later.
Davison to Baker.
Davison to Baker.
That's better.
Sorry, I thought you meant Baker to Davison when he wasn't in the TARDIS, right?
Yes. Yeah. No,
he had the Watcher. Yeah. Well, anyway, sorry. I think all that's interesting, and there's a story to be written there. I think if this idea hasn't been realized in Big Finish or elsewhere, I think they should definitely take it and run with it at some point in the new series, or wherever. That RTD is going to take it next. But it's all well and good to talk about what Arc of Infinity could have been. I think we need to sort of judge it based on what it is, right? And I don't think it's a terrible episode. But as I was saying in the sort of expectations department, it's high because it's the season 20 and you're doing all these things, and it just ends up being kind of an episode of the week, a sort of like filler almost. And it does some good things, you know, like when you get past the disappointment of it, the things that I think work are Tegan coming back and being you know, her interactions with both Robin and, you know, coming back with the Doctor and Nyssa at the end and being like one of the catalysts that sort of brings them to Amsterdam. That's all fine. I think Nyssa in particular is really well served because she finally gets to sort of be an action star and blast a ton of guards with her staser, which has become almost like it's become a meme, and on Doctor Who Twitter and other places, like that Nyssa pointing the staser when she bursts into the I want to call it the throne room or whatever, wherever that the like High Council meets. Like that's just sort of a famous thing. Now apparently originally JNT, they wanted to bring Leela back, which would make total sense. They actually make a mention of her. That's another thing this story does. It's really obsessed with continuity.
It really is, in a
kind of to
way.
its detriment. It's a little too much, too obsessed about it. But I like that. As much as I would have loved to see Louise Jameson again, I'd like that it forces Nyssa to step up and basically be this action star. And the thing is, Sarah Sutton delivers, I think. Like, she does a great performance when she realizes the Doctor is going to be killed. It's tearing her apart. Like, and she has to sort of go through this thing and watch him be executed. But it seems to awaken something in her. Like, she's like, no, like, this is basically, like, whether it's her dad or like whatever relationship you want to ascribe to those two, like, she steps up and she grabs a gun and is like, no, I'm going to save him this time, and I'm going to get him back to the TARDIS, and we're going to escape. And it's just great to watch her sort of take command halfway through this thing.
It seems increasingly like this is the story that is going to tear Pull to Open apart. Because
you didn't like Nyssa blowing away people?
I'm going to disagree with you on both of those points. But first, okay, so Tegan, first of all, like the worst way to reintroduce a companion ever. Like, I wonder who Colin's cousin is. And just the Colin and Robin, and I cannot say those two together because I watch What We Do in the Shadows without thinking Colin Robinson. Colin and Robin are these two backpackers. Deep cut for, I know we have some What We Do in the Shadows fans out there. Okay, so this is the story of Doctor Who that has perhaps the most hotel or hostel receptionists ever. There is an interminable amount of time spent talking to these receptionists about where Colin has gone. No, he left this message for you. And oh, just a minute, he said he was Australian. And what? Why? Oh God! It just sort of feels like bad 80s soap opera. Like there was a soap in the 80s in the UK called Crossroads that was set in a motel with a lot of like check-in and check-out scenes, right? It just felt like filler. And this does as well. So I don't think Tegan is well served. I wasn't like curious about who Colin's cousin is. The whole thing with Colin and Robin made no sense to me. And then Colin gets grabbed by Omega and turned into a zombie, which sort of the way that Colin is being played it makes it kind of look like he is like in a PSA, an 80s after school special for like, don't do heroin, kids. Like, he's kind of shambling along like a zombie and he's got red eyes and you're like, don't go to Amsterdam and do drugs, people. So that,
why does Omega, just to jump on that for a second, like, why does he even need slaves? Like, he's got the Ergon.
Yeah. Yes.
Like the Ergon could just install stuff. Why do you need a human to run around? And what, like, it has this gun that ostensibly transports them on the TARDIS, his TARDIS, but like, again, why go to the trouble of transmatting them when you can just grab them? Like, why again? Like, this is what I hate about shows that use this advanced technology to do things that you could just do like normally, like just grab them and drag them into the TARDIS. You don't need to beam them in there. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I really got lost around what was happening around there. It was just so...
I mean, the answer is they just wanted to psych you out and make you think they were disintegrated. But then it's like, once they do that one time, first of all, it's a dumb psych. But second of all, then you're never psyched again. And it's just, okay, this is, I guess, what they do.
Yeah, and then meanwhile you have Nyssa, who I don't think is well served by this episode at all. I think so. She starts off basically nagging the Doctor. We finally get an insight into what the Doctor and Nyssa alone in the TARDIS would look like, and it's basically just like he's a henpecked husband doing honeydews. in this. He's like, she's like, why? Like the audio, like we don't have audio on the scanner, Doctor. You said you'd fix it, Doctor. Why didn't you fix it, Doctor? And by the way, Doctor, why isn't there a state of temporal grace like you said there was? Like she's just like I wouldn't look askance at the Doctor for just dropping Nissa off after this. Like that's not. Maybe this is why he welcomes Tegan back, but maybe he could say something like, "Oh my goodness, thank you. I've been, Nissa's been on my case."
I kind of like that. I actually like the scene because it's a little bit like him calling him out on his bullshit and just kind of, you know, I like it. It sort of emphasizes there's more familiarity between the two of them. This is their home. They're kind of living together, and this is it's a little bit of obsession with continuity here, but it also is good. At this point, it isn't annoying because I do like that they essentially, cover a couple of plot points really quickly. One that the scanner has audio, which I don't know if anyone noticed it didn't for a while. Like I guess it lost it at some point, and who knows. But I guess they needed it later, I guess even in this episode where the Lord President's talking to the Doctor through the TARDIS. So I guess they needed it. But the other one with Temple Grace was great because I'm sure basically the John Nathan Turner and others heard about stuff between seasons, certainly post Earthshock, like, hey, wait a minute, the Cybermen were just shooting up the whole console room, but the Doctor said this years ago. And I like that it's a non-answer. Time, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was the Sontarans. The Sontarans already broke that rule. Yeah, so the Sontarans did that. The Cybermen did it in Earthshock. So, like, it's clearly doesn't exist, this function that the Doctor is talking about. But I also do like he just gives a non-answer. Like, nobody's perfect.
Well, he said...
It's just kind of a confession.
Kind of a confession, I guess. Like, he just... Does that mean there is a temporal grace, but he just didn't fix it? Like, is that another thing that he needs to add to his list? Or
I like it. I like that it's not an answer, though. Like, I like that it is like, you guys make up what you want. You know, like, we're just not even going to answer you. I do like that because it is like fans like us obsess about things, but I think the show shouldn't and is a little. I don't think this is necessarily a mean way to do it, but it is a good little reminder. Like, who cares? Did you like the story? Like, yes, it has to make sense, and we should strive to be internally consistent to a point. But there's also like, come on, Earthshock was a classic. Like, didn't you like that? Like, who cares if there's temporal grace or not? Like,
I mean, okay, it's a bit of a weird thing. Kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. The level of fan service in Arc of Infinity and references to past shows, like, it would make sense in an era where people could go back and watch other stories anytime they wanted. But like, who remembers even Invasion of Time at this point? Like, that's 6 years earlier.
Well, they're not referencing that. They only reference Earthshock.
Well, he does reference it in terms of saying.
No, he's the presidential code.
Yeah, the presidential code as well,
because he was Lord President. He does that. That was a nice little callback. So, like, some of these are okay, but I think they get a little bit obsessed with it. Certainly, like the scanner. I mean, they talked about all the Gallifrey stuff. There's a bunch of callbacks. Like, they talk about how, like, there's precedent for the death penalty on Gallifrey only once. They've only done it once before, and that's pretty clearly a reference to Morbius because it was made clear in that episode, like, he was basically executed. The Ergon is another one where the Doctor talks about it's like he actually says it's one of its less successful attempts at psychosynthesis, which is, I think, consciously a meta comment on how bad the costume is. Like, the Ergon looks like this skeletal bird guy. That's a little like, okay, I guess I'll go with it.
It looks like an extra from like a Muppet sketch set in a haunted house.
I think it honestly looks okay, and it could look even better with just some minor tweaks. I think the problem is it's clearly like a dude who can't see, like, where, like, it doesn't move in an interesting way. It's just some person kind of waddling around in a bird head. And I think if they had thought about not just how it looked, but like how a person would move in that, and what this creature, does it have a body language of any kind, even if it's just a rudimentary one, I think that could have worked. But as such, it's literally a rubber-suited Doctor Who monster.
So the Ergon was in it before? Has been in Doctor Who before?
No, sorry. I think that's a reference when he talks about his less successful attempts at psychosynthesis. It's sort of talking about this is the gel creatures from the Three Doctors, but done differently. So basically, he's gotten a little better at, because the gel creatures in the Three Doctors are basically blobs that make dumb noises, but the Ergon's, notwithstanding the sort of bad costume, it is more sophisticated because it could, it's a biped, it has a gun, it seems to be able to do sophisticated tasks. So it seems like Omega's gotten a little better at doing whatever he does in sort of constructs, and he's decided to focus on just one. So, that's a little bit of headcanon I'm bringing to that, but it is, it all makes sense.
It's so funny that all of these callbacks have to be explained. You have to dig into them, and some of them bring up more questions than they answer. Like, the Doctor says he's sorry to miss Leela and Andred's wedding. Well, how did he know about it? Did he get an invite? And why didn't he go? And he's a time traveler. Like, if he was too busy, like, what is this? And it may be. Maybe, you want to headcanon this as a reference to the way that the Doctor just really doesn't like ex-companions' boyfriends / husbands. And we talked about that recently on Pull to Open, and maybe he's got it in for Andred as well. Poor Andred.
Yeah.
But we talked about callbacks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, I'm amazed that we have got this far in a review of Arc of Infinity without mentioning Commander Maxwell and Colin Baker and just the weirdness of it. Because I've got to say, I remembered that Colin Baker was in Arc of Infinity. It's sort of like the one thing that a casual fan might know about Arc of Infinity. Like, Colin Baker plays this other role, and there's always that clip that you see from it. From episode 2 or something. He's in it so much. Like, he's not just a background character. He's in it as much, or if not more than Peter Capaldi is in The Fires of Pompeii.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a full-on Colin Baker appearance. No wonder after he played this role did he say, "Oh, now I can't play the Doctor."
Yeah, it's funny you said. Speaking of callbacks, this is obviously a call forward. Which,
exactly.
Of course, we respond to all calls here on Pull to Open.
We do. Calls back and calls forward in time. But yeah, it does kind of beg the question of, like, I just really wish that they had in the next season kind of, done what they did for Capaldi. Just admitted that this is a face that the Doctor has seen before.
Yeah, I mean, you can if you have something interesting to say, I guess. What I will say, like, I'm talking about the things that work. I think you got some good points about Tegan. We disagree on Nissa, but, like, I definitely think Maxwell works. Like,
yes,
this is one of the better parts of the episode. Like, Colin Baker comes in and he understood the assignment, and probably too well. I think I read somewhere that John Nathan Turner actually had to tell them to dial back the presence a little bit, and that, like, hey, like, you're not the star of the show. And of course, ironically, would turn out to be the star of the show. But he's really, like, he sort of has clearly thought about the character and, like, okay, this guy's, dick, a little bit sadistic. He's definitely the person in charge who's, once you hand him a gun, he's going to round up a dozen people just for the heck of it. Though he also gives him, there's enough lines in there to give him an ounce of integrity. Because when the Castellan approaches him in episode 3 about, like, what did you think of that execution? It seemed a little weird. He's like, yeah, it did. And he goes, like, go check it out. And he comes back to him with information that's, like, not only, like, was it weird? Actually, the Doctor's companions were right about the bio. Like, he's like, I've the facts are the facts, dude. Like, we might not like them, but this is happening. So, I do like it that you don't quite come around to liking Maxwell, but it is like he's not just there to push people around and shoot Peter Davison.
Yes, I think, in search of positive things to say about Arc of Infinity, because as I said, we are a podcast that tries to be mostly positive. So if I'm going to put my most positive face on Arc of Infinity, it is the fact that Peter Davison and Colin Baker are stars, and they deal with a lifeless script. They give it full commitment, 110% from both of them, which makes 220% of Doctor Who acting. They're great. They both get the assignment. Like Davison, to his credit, he always did this. Like he acted the hell out of the role, no matter how dumb the line was coming out of his mouth. And there
are some dumb lines in this one.
Yes,
there's a dumb line.
There's jumped on mind.
There's one at the end where you wonder why they even put it in, where he talks about like why they're even in Amsterdam. And the problem is it's just technobabble. He just says, oh, this is on the curve of the arc and it's below sea level and the fusion thing works or whatever. And it's supposedly to explain it away, but what it does is draw attention to the fact that they're in Amsterdam and there's no reason for them to be in Amsterdam at that time. Like why in all of the universe that Omega presumably has to choose from, he's chosen contemporary Earth. He's chosen the place where Tegan happens to be. And he goes to a place where he could be easily discovered, which makes no sense. And you have all of time and space and you chose there? That's bizarre. Like, why? You shouldn't even say anything, in other words. Like, it's like, it is what it is. So, because and by the way, speaking of being easily discovered, again, the story hinges on the police essentially being incompetent. Like both Robin and Tegan go to the police and say, hey, there's this guy. He was last seen in this crypt. Like, we're telling you exactly where to start looking and he's missing, and they just ignore them and don't do it. But I mean, think about it of like, sometimes we like to talk about if the evil plot had succeeded, but I'm like, the evil plot should have been shut down right away. Like the cops should have been like there, discovered the TARDIS. And then what? He's just going to zap them all with the ergon, and then until like people call it the National Guard or whatever. Like, I mean, the jig is up, dude.
Yeah, nobody cares about Australian tourists, I think is the message there. It's a bit of a confusing one. It's a strange setup, but yeah, you know what? With the benefit of hindsight, I think it's so easy to say, and in fact, I was kind of yelling at the screen in my mind in episode 4, like, just say that Amsterdam is a rift. Don't come up with this nonsense about Arc of Infinity, and just say it's a rift in space and time. And the way that the Cardiff was explained away, like why do they keep going back to Cardiff? RTD obviously knew that they would have to do that. It's so easy with the benefit of hindsight to come up with a reason.
Yeah, sci-fi thing is happening here. Boom, there you go. That's what ghosts are, etc.
So much techno babble in this that I honestly got lost. I don't understand the whole antimatter thing. I understand that they're not supposed to join, but then Omega does appear. But then the collision of matter and antimatter is that why his face is melting?
The whole end there is bizarre. Like, it doesn't work with what they've said. And the thing is, you already have kind of a rich canvas with matter and antimatter. I think you could do something visually interesting. But all that stuff where his mask is like bleeding or dripping and it starts to squeeze, and it's already sort of lighting up in the first place, which is, again, for some reason not villain's mask or helmet had to blink back in the classic series. Fair enough. But you're kind of you're fooled into, not fooled, but you're thinking like, if this is a creature, am I seeing the actual creature or is it an outfit? Right? Because you don't know it's Omega at this point. And then you realize, oh, it's Omega. Once it's revealed, if you know the 3 doctors, you're thinking, oh, he's just a nothing under there. He's just a will. Like, this is obviously his new outfit. And I guess that's what that is. But if he's not there, like, that was sort of the conundrum of the 3 doctors. There was sort of, I'm trying sort of vaguely to remember that, but I think one of the problems is there was no matter. There was nothing, So like, how is he transferring to matter now when he's antimatter, or like he's not even anything, So that's something they never explain. it's not clear, is his TARDIS antimatter? Is his other, like, what's antimatter once you're on board Omega's TARDIS? Like, I think the way things turn out, I think it is just him who's antimatter, and somehow that suit is keeping him from destroying everything, right? So in other words, like, if you assume there is a thing there that then needs to be transferred, he's just come into our universe, but he's used the Ark, which apparently has this Q-star stuff that can shield antimatter. So he grabs some of that Q-star stuff on the way in by going through the Ark and uses it to shield himself through that suit, but it decays rapidly, right? So he has to transfer. And so he transfers.
I feel like you should wheel in a blackboard. You should have a blackboard behind you, Pete, as you're saying all this. It's easy. It's obvious. See, the arc of infinity over here, and the transfer is over here, and the antimatter is blasting. A child could get this. Sorry, go ahead.
Come on, Chris. Dude, the Ark. The suit. No, but I think it's made less obvious. Like, first of all, it's not obvious because you do need a blackboard to do this. But to the extent that the visual, like you're telling a visual story through television, that the visuals are supposed to help you tell that story, they just confuse. So, like at the end there, whereas he's just dripping from his helmet, like you really are like, what is even going on? I will say, here's the thing: what I like about that whole sequence, though, because you're confused, and it's like, what? It's when he takes off the mask and it's Davison underneath. And you're just like, oh yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't understand all the antimatter stuff, but like, yeah, they made a big deal about him using the doctor's biodata. It would make total sense. Now he looks exactly like him.
He was bonding the doctor's biodata, which kind of, you know, that has not aged well as a phrase, because of course now we think of like bonding in an emotional sense. Like, have you bonded with the doctor yet, Omega? Have you guys had on really good dates together? They
like the word bonding. I don't know. They had the ion bonder in the previous season and stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of bonding going on in 80s Doctor Who.
It's super weird. It's worth it though for like that. Yes, as you say, the moment when he takes the helmet. First of all, helmet. I love the design. You know, very very beautifully done. Doesn't look as good in kind of a reverse, like the antimatter view of Omega, where it kind of looks like it really focuses on these sort of insect-like eyes that he has on the front, and it just looks cartoonish in that form for some reason. But the actual mask, the actual, you know, not reversed film version, is beautifully designed. And yes, taking the mask off and revealing Davison, like I got Empire Strikes Back vibes from that, which you know, was just 2 years earlier. You know, where Luke discovers that it's his face in the dream where he's fighting Vader in the cave and Dagobah.
Right.
And also the prisoner vibes. Spoiler alert for if you were queuing up for the first time, The Prisoner. The last episode features the prisoner, Patrick McGugan, finding out the number one is himself. You know, and it's nice if it had any meaning whatsoever. Like if you played with that notion of like, oh, he's become the Doctor now. Like maybe the Doctor had evil in him all along, or like and then it is completely undercut, like almost everything in Arc of Infinity, undercut within 5 minutes by the fact that they have Peter Davison chasing Peter Davison through the streets of Amsterdam. But at some point he gets like, I don't know, it's just like, now Peter Davison is chasing Peter Davison's stunt double in the mask.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Bad.
Well, I do think, I don't know if they do a lot of duality in this, but perhaps the best scene even in the whole story is where Omega, now in the form of Peter Davison, is sort of wandering the streets of Amsterdam and comes upon the sort of puppeteers and the little sort of carnival thing where there's this little crowd gathered, and he gets this taste of life that he clearly hasn't had in eons. And there's the kid that runs by him, and he's a little annoyed at that. But then the kid sort of smiles at him, and he kind of smiles back, and he's kind of like, you kind of get a sense of maybe he's not the megalomaniac everyone makes him out to be. Maybe there is some depth here, and maybe what was everyone worried about on a big level. It's obviously immediately he gets the goop on his hands and has to run away, but so as soon as it gives you that, it takes it away, but you want more there. You really want to go further and like, wait a minute, what's the deal with this guy, and how would that have played out if he did come back? I'd like to know.
It's interesting that you got those vibes from that scene, because the vibes I got were, my God, we let children do anything in the early 80s. Like, here's this weird dude with like stuff dripping off his face. He kind of leers at this kid, which that has not aged well.
He doesn't have stuff dripping off his face yet. He doesn't even know he's degenerating.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
but he's got goop on his hands, and he's leering at a small child.
Okay, settle down.
Yeah, I'm just saying that this scene is not aged well, and that you could not film that today without like the parents.
I disagree. I don't think he's leering. He's kind of smiling. It's just people. You're reading way too much into that. He's having a moment as a person, as a human being, or Time Lord being, and he's just kind of like, oh, okay. So it almost like all of his stuff that happened up until then. Even his yelling, he's going to build a TARDIS and I'm going to come to Gallifrey, which seems like idle threats. I just think, there's something my son said after we watched it. And even though my kids both thought this was a pretty meh episode, he's like, well, what was the problem? Why didn't they just help Omega? Like, he just wanted to come back, right? Like, why was it such a bad guy thing? And it's like, good, really good question. Like, why did they just help him out?
The other interesting thing about that scene is my other reaction was, my God, we were easily entertained in the early 80s. I mean, that is a dull-ass organ. It's like there's, visually speaking, there's like one thing moving on it. And like there's a tiny puppet or something. And it's playing like Tulips from Amsterdam at a very slow speed. And it's just, it doesn't seem compelling at all. Like, why would Omega... Did Omega want to play the organ when he was a boy, and like this is reminding him of his childhood love of music, or they just don't have a lot of music on Gallifrey, or like what is going on? Like, and they just lingered on that. Couldn't you find something more entertaining or amusing, visually interesting in Amsterdam? It's
probably
Amsterdam.
not. Or if you did, it would probably be a little more R-rated.
Right. Omega strays into the red light district and suddenly finds out what it means to be alive.
Oh wow! This side trip of
this
Arc of Infinity that you never asked for. My God, that's that's the Harlequin romance short trips for Doctor Who shippers or something.
Oh my goodness! Yes, I'm so sorry. Maybe one of the reasons why I have such a hard time with Arc of Infinity is that a character called Taylor is killed very early on. A Time Lord called Taylor.
Yeah. And it's also
what is even going on there? I don't know.
I don't know what's going on there. He has a dumb line. He asks, like, is that an impulse laser when it's being pointed right at him? It's a little like,
an impulse
really?
Laser? You're just happy to see me.
That's your thought? That's the line you're doing?
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. He's kind of mentioned by other people, like, and like it's not at all clear that that's who they're referring to. They just keep
we talked about how sort of visually dull and lame that the Time Lords in Gallifrey are. I mean, they're also dumb, right? Like, I mean, this is sort of, there's some dumb writing here that should have been thought through. That, like, why would the Time Lords not take seriously a murder that I think doesn't happen all that often on Gallifrey, certainly not in a sensitive place like where these high level technician guys are, and think that is probably related to the crisis that is now besetting the universe here. Like, I mean, like, you'd think that was something they would just be instantly on alert about, right? And then there's
you would think so. And then there's the issue of like, why don't Time Lords regenerate when they get killed in this story?
Yeah, well, there's that. I mean, that I don't mind so much because that was just kind of what they did in classic Who. Like, the Time Lords weren't as unkillable as they're sort of regarded now in New Who. But the whole idea of like, let's execute the Doctor and that'll solve our problem, it also doesn't make sense within sort of even how the Time Lords are defining the problem, right? Because the Time Lords are assuming that the biodata issue the Doctor's bringing up is a non-issue. That it's like, well, the creature is going to transfer anyway, right? Like, maybe it doesn't need your biodata. Maybe it's just the power of it is huge. Well, if that's the case, how does killing the Doctor fix anything? Because if it can do that, by your own assumption, it's just going to bond with some other Time Lord. So, like, why do it? Like, now you're killing a person who could actually help you solve the problem. Just really kind of not really thought through writing here that just sort of breaks down even as you're watching it.
You could kind of say that, like, all of the sins of Doctor Who that led to the series cancellation are here in evidence in Arc of Infinity. In the presence of Colin Baker, who would, it's doing an outstanding job as, playing Commander Maxwell as an asshole who still, does it by the book. Taking that performance and then applying it to the Doctor a year later would arguably not work and hasten the near cancellation of the show that it suffered under Colin Baker. But yes, fundamentally it is the fact that they are asleep at the switch in terms of just your number one goal is to produce a good story. Produce a story with characters that we care about, with stakes that are clear, and not a lot of time given to hotel receptionists. And side scenes like that. Don't waste your time on that sort of thing.
Well, they waste so much here, and I got to say, one of the things that is wasted is Michael Goff as a head-in. So the Doctor's friend, we haven't talked about him, and they brought back Goff, who was also played the Celestial Toymaker, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously went on to do lots of things, including playing Alfred in some of the Batman movies. So really great actor, but he's so forgettable in this role, and
so wasted.
He gets very little screen time. The main thing he does is kind of point a gun at the president and Nyssa a little later, but he just sort of waves a pen around in a silhouette, and it's not even him, right? Like, I don't think Goff did the voices when he's, for some dumb reason, disguising his voice to when he's talking one-on-one with Omega. There's a bunch of those scenes, which unfortunately haven't aged well either. And he's just kind of there. You kind of like, you're not even quite thinking, who's that guy? Like, he seems like I've seen him before. Like, you honestly, I had to look it up almost. Like, like, oh, I guess that is him. Like, because his performance and the character doesn't stand out in any way. Like, it's just, it's the Doctor's buddy.
Also, like, yet another traitor. Like, that once again, the twist is that there's a Time Lord traitor. I mean, that was the case in Deadly Assassin. Did we have a traitor in Invasion of Time, or was it just the Doctor appearing to be a traitor?
Well, it was like the Castellan was wormy and not quite a traitor, but he was an opportunist. Right. So there was that. But it was mostly just the Doctor appearing as that way.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think Gallifrey by this point would be on its guard for Time Lord traitors who are almost exclusively, older white men, kind of at the top of the totem pole. That's where you should be concentrating your investigation, people.
Let's put a few more checks and balances into the system, come to think of it. Like, like Arc of Infinity, like Barusa, this is his third appearance and the third actor to play Barusa. Speaking of traitors, because he goes on to do his last appearance in The Five Doctors at yet another actor to play him, which is funny. It's like the same season. You couldn't get the same dude. Not that anyone was dying to see, again, nothing against this actor who I think was just miscast and not given great material, which was Leonard Sachs played him here in Arc of Infinity. Right. And of course, that character goes on to betray everything too. Like, all these high-ranking Time Lords just doing bad stuff. You might think there's a problem with this system. Maybe we should make some adjustments here.
Maybe it's because you have so many organizations like the CIA, like Division, that are secret off the books Time Lord organizations, that there's nobody left for like internal policing matters. Yeah. Just everyone's on the honor system that you're not going to be a traitor, right? You haven't stared too hard into the untempered schism. Right? Yep. Okay. Good. But speaking of dying, as I think you mentioned dying in terms of Barusa metaphorically, but like actual dying, why is the guy regenerating so much? What the hell's he doing?
I know.
I mean,
yeah.
is he just like living the high life every time we don't see him off screen? He's like just, trying not to live forever, barring accidents, having as many accidents.
Here's my theory on this. I mean, I think there might be some sort of equivalent of cancer for Time Lords that maybe is something regeneration doesn't fully cure. Like, in other words, maybe some people are born or acquire some sort of degenerative disease that I hope isn't contagious, but maybe it's just a thing that happens. And so some Time Lords' bodies give out a lot faster than some others. And maybe it's a rare thing, but that maybe it's incurable. Maybe Barusa was just one of these folks that just his regenerations last, 3 or 4 years. That's it. That's all he's got.
Coming soon to Big Finish, time cancer. A story nobody asked for.
I actually kind of like the idea because it might give a little more impetus to his eventual turn in the Five Doctors, where he talks a lot about like his work being half done and the fact that he wants to live forever is the motivator there, that he just wants to be Lord President for eternity. And that makes a more sense if he's been cheated out of a full-time Lord life somehow. And that's sort of serving as a bit of a frustration that puts him over the edge. And now he's so crazy, he's going to activate the death zone, get some regenerations again.
Yeah, want to live forever? Maybe bar having accidents that seems to be burning through your regenerations. Yeah, it is interesting because we are, of course, here in the same season as Mordred Undead, where they emphasize that it is canon that the Doctor only has 12 regenerations total, right? But here it's just sort of dealt with so casually, and some Time Lords die, but in the same time you're mentioning the fact that Barusa is regenerated. So yeah, the canon is just being inconsistent. So at the same time as you've got all these, little bits of dialogue thrown in to clear up previous inconsistencies, like State of Temporal Grace, you're not dealing with the giant non-regenerating elephant in the room of how can you murder Time Lords. Yeah, so just
it's also like
that's why are they seeds of Doctor Who's doom, right?
Yeah, I mean, and there's also like to the killing, not killing. There's the inconsistency with the stasers, and I guess for some reason they also use impulse lasers. And it seems to be implied that Damon and his buddy who gets killed in the first scene almost like aren't Time Lords, so they're Gallifreyans, but they're not Time Lords. And then Hedden gets killed by the Castellan because for some reason the Castellans are always like bloodthirsty and just like why would you just come in with a lethal staser and kill the guy anyway? Like, I mean, I know he's like supposedly killing the Doctor because he was already sentenced to death, but it's not like when like an execution doesn't work, they say, all right, all the cops with guns come in here and start shooting them. Like, I mean, there's kind of process, like it's like they suddenly become barbarians for a minute just because someone needs to die in this scene.
Yeah, and could we not at least have a trial by jury? Could they not like spring for 12 extras? Just to your point earlier, of like Gallifrey feels really sparsely populated in this one.
Yeah.
We need at least one scene with a lot of extras. Maybe give the Doctor a trial, or maybe they were already knew that could be a future season to put the Doctor on trial. But yeah,
okay,
it's kind of
so I have some questions. Now, before we get to the questions, one I have to nerd out about a very specific question is what is up with the recall device? Okay.
Yes.
So the TARDIS is taken back to Gallifrey by means of recall device. So something starts blinking on the console, which now we know what that light is. It's the TARDIS recall device activated by the High Council of the Time Lords, and that brings the TARDIS back. And he can't do anything about it. And he says the recall device has only been used 3 times in their entire history. So I lied because I said I have a question. I actually have a host of questions about this. Like, was the War Games one of those times? Now, it would explain how the TARDIS just sort of appears on Gallifrey at the end of the War Games, even though the Doctor clearly doesn't want to go there. It's been like scooped apparently by the Time Lords. But if that's the case, like, why didn't they bring him back earlier than the War Games if they're using a recall device there? So I tend to favor maybe that wasn't a recall device, and because the Doctor does say in this story, in Arc of Infinity, that, oh, Damon, when you fix my TARDIS, fix it with a sort of an engine that doesn't have a recall device, which implies you can do that. You know, like you can have TARDISes with them and without them. So maybe his TARDIS didn't have a recall device up until the War Games, but then obviously the Time Lords, you remember there was technicians in the War Games that were doing something in there. And then the Time Lords sort of had unprecedented power over the TARDIS, right? It was during the Pertwee era, it would send them wherever. And so if there was definitely I think after the War Games, there's definitely a recall device, but maybe he didn't have one until then. And if that's the case, well, then what were the other 2 times? And all of this, like, if you take an even further step back, well, why is using a recall device so serious anyway? Like, it just seems like a thing they'd be using all the time. Like, why is it like, oh my God, they're using a recall device? You mean they're bringing back their property to their planet?
Exactly.
Oh my,
the thing that you stole that you still haven't paid for, by the way. Like, you've just been allowed to take this Type 40, bust up old Type 40 TARDIS around the universe. And what's wrong with the recall? You know what? I got really so bored at that point. I kind of imagined the Doctor kind of on hold with IT for like how to turn his Find My Friends off. How to stop broadcasting his data. So the TARDIS could be recalled. Yeah, no, you're not going to see where I am. I mean, so presumably one of those times was for the Deadly Assassin, right? The where he has to drop Sarah Jane off because the TARDIS is about to be recalled.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but he sort of deliberately goes there because I don't think that was a recall device either, because he's just given a message and it's not even from the High Council. I think didn't they reveal it was from Goth or the Master or something like so that. Basically, the Doctor has time to drop off Sarah Jane and then go. So that I think reveals that it's not a recall. And also they're not really expecting him. I mean, for a lot of reasons, but like mostly that he just drops in and the guard get there. And anyway, we go ahead and listen to our Deadly Assassin podcast. There's a whole thing on it. But I mean, it's just
our Trial of a Time Lord podcast in which the TARDIS is again recalled, apparently even without a recall device on.
Well, I think it's clearly a thing for this story that they're trying to sort of instill some stakes and some feeling like of something big is going on, something big with the Doctor and something big within Time Lord society, and they sort of emphasize it with this idea of the recall device, and it's this rarely used thing, and obviously that's echoed a little bit in the capital punishment and how rare that is. So again, but if you take it apart just a little bit, it just doesn't hold up to any scrutiny. And the main thing being like, well, what's so serious about that? They just want their TARDIS back, or they're just bringing you back because, like, it doesn't have to be like, we're going to execute you. It's like, oh yeah, we have a nice Christmas dinner. Like, like, come on back, Doctor. Yeah. We'll just hit the recall button or answer a few questions about where you left your scarf or whatever. Like, just hit it. Like, I'd just be hitting that recall device all the time just to kick my feet up and chat with the Doctor.
It's just been recalled like your Toyota Camry might be recalled. Like, just bring it back in. Like, we got to do some fixing it. We're going to update it for you.
We're going to get Google Maps on your console. It's going to be great.
The Type 40s have all been recalled because apparently there's a problem with the chameleon circuit. If you've been having chameleon circuit issues, please bring your Type 40 TARDIS back to Gallifrey immediately, and we'll exchange it for a new one.
Last point of the recall device, it's pretty clear he does not get a engine without one, because I think that is clearly what's used in Trial of a Time Lord to bring him back to his trial. So
yes,
while there was a Gallifrey that could bring him back anytime.
Rule number one: your Time Lord friends lie about how they've modded up your TARDIS. Yeah. All right. Well, those were some questions. Shall we put Arc of Infinity out of its misery by asking some more questions?
Would those be the 4 questions to Doomsday?
Yes, they would be. What's the first question, Pete?
The first question is, why did the randomizer take us here?
Okay,
well, we already kind of went over this. I mean, it's pretty on the nose.
Yeah.
We talked about season 20. Boom. Done.
You talked a lot about season 20, and I, to my everlasting shame, said, let's see more Davison. I felt like we were missing. So I brought this on myself. I felt like we were missing more Davison. I kind of had a bit of nostalgia for the era.
You were thinking of Power of the Doctor. That's what you wanted to say.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently so. But the most recent Davison episode, as it were. Yeah, I mean, there's also, you mentioned the thing about flat line arc. I think that's the randomizers having fun with maths. Maybe.
Well, there's also,
obviously the randomizer loves Time Lords.
Those Time Lords and TARDISes. So there is some TARDIS action here. You learn a little bit about like the space-time element, which, by the way, I do like a great bit of storytelling without dialogue in Arc of Infinity is when Maxil pulls the space-time element out of the console and the TARDIS starts to go dark, and Nyssa looks at him and he looks at her, and there's just like this hatred between the two of them. Really great acting with their eyes, both Colin Baker and Sarah Sutton there. Good little moment in perhaps, shall we say, a mixed story at this point.
That reminds me, everyone seems to be hanging out in Nyssa's bedroom on the TARDIS. What's up with that? There's literally infinite rooms that you could be hanging out with. Everyone's in Nyssa's bedroom. Like, you kind of almost want them to have a sleepover and like sing into hairbrushes in their PJs and like, get their hair
given what we know
in.
About Nyssa, and I think we've seen her bedroom a few times, certainly, like all the way back to, I think, The Visitation or something. But you have to think it's the most well-organized, the most nice-smelling, the most brightly lit room in the entire TARDIS. So it's like, why wouldn't you want to hang out there?
I love that idea. The rest of the TARDIS just smells like a bachelor cave. And, and this is the one room where, that certainly puts Tegan's desire to escape the TARDIS as ASAP into context. She's Doctor, really.
All right. We've answered too many questions with that one, but we got to move on to the second question, which is, what if the evil plot had succeeded?
Okay, so the evil plot is Omega is trying to return to the non-antimatter universe. Yes?
Yeah, this is the thing. It's like, as I was sort of saying earlier with him looking at the nice scene in Amsterdam, like, I feel like the evil plot succeeding here, if it's him successfully transferring, is like, okay, he's just here hanging out in our universe, and he's going to little puppet shows on the streets of Amsterdam, and that's kind of it. We're done.
I would love that. I would love that version of Arc of Infinity. If like the evil plot succeeding is you just cut from that scene where he's like staring at the organ and it looks like he's thinking, organs, they're a thing. Cut to 6 months later, he's got his own organ and it's much more exciting and colorful, and it's doing all these whizzy Time Lord effects. And he's like the happiest barrel organ owner in Amsterdam. End credits. Works
That's
for me.
about it. Yeah. I think the problem is, to take it seriously, is that it's clear from maybe less of this story, but to some extent in this story, but certainly in the Three Doctors and in other media. So there's this great big finish. I would call it great. It's actually a pretty good big finish called Omega. It's just simply called Omega. But from all of those, it's very clear Omega is nuts. Like, his time in the antimatter universe has driven him insane. So I think at some point, whatever happens to him, if he successfully transfers, he does become some megalomaniac and he needs to be stopped. So even in the fanciful scenario, he just becomes this great organ maker. I think at some point he realizes he can sell organs for more than he paid for them. builds up a big organ empire somehow and uses that to further some diabolical end or get revenge on the Time Lords or something like that. So, yeah, I think ultimately that happens. But whatever story results from that would probably be better than Arc of Infinity.
Yeah, I like the idea of the season long hunt for Omega arc. Maybe we could still do that in the new series. We're going to bring him back again somehow.
Yeah, he'd have to hook up with the Cybermen or something, because the Cybermen are sort of on Earth around now because they're prepping for the return of Mondas. So like their time travel from Attack of the Cybermen. So he'd have to hook up with some spacefaring race here in 1980s Earth to get a lift off Earth. But he'd have to do that soonish, I guess, because presumably even if the Doctor doesn't succeed in hunting him down here and now, like the Time Lords would come after him. Again, like the Time Lords just seem really like strapped for, like they just can't do anything in this episode besides just kind of, maybe like they can't even really execute the Doctor properly, right? Like they don't do anything. They're just so ineffective, and you just never get a sense of their sort of amazing, the scale of their power, which you used to get with the Dom Baker episodes.
How the mighty have fallen from War Games, where we went recently, where the Time Lords are almost literally gods and can do no wrong and can bring you back at any time and have powers over time and space too. We're just going to let Omega wander around Amsterdam. Yeah.
Well, it's also like
come get your boy.
To pick at another thing, there's that whole dumb pulse loop thing in episode 4 where they distract Omega with some technobabble, and so the Doctor can get to Amsterdam. And it just felt like something out of like an 80s detective show of let's do this thing. Like this did not feel like the most powerful race in the cosmos, like doing something with that power in any way. And I guess maybe you could interpret it as like, well, the Time Lords are kind of neutered because the Omega now controls the Matrix or something. I guess maybe, but I'm also like, you'd almost think the response to Omega, his inevitable transfer, is we need to focus all of our powers on this. Like we need to get every single TARDIS out of mothballs right now and aim them all where he is. Like, in other words, like, why not just come in force? Like, and yes, he can detect that, but I don't get a sense that Omega can do anything about it. Like, what's he going to do if you just, all go in the vortex at once and just come at him? And yes, he's going to kill Tegan, but I mean, why would the Lord President care? That's your problem, Doctor. Like, I'm sorry, one human this person's going to destroy the universe. We're going to get all of our, battle TARDISes and just blow them away.
Yeah. I love that idea for another alternate ending of Arc of Infinity that you could actually, in theory, do now. Like, just have it be so that Peter Davison can't actually shoot Omega at the end, and we think Omega's going to live, but no, here comes Commander Maxwell with his fleet of battle TARDISes, and maybe it's an older Commander Maxwell, maybe it's a Colin Baker today Commander Maxwell, and he's just had to take that long in his lifespan to build the battle TARDISes to come after Omega, but they've finally done it, and they lead him away.
Oh, that'd be amazing! I'd love to see the sweeping shot of like young Colin Baker leaning out of his battle TARDIS and just coming in like with a fleet of them. And it's like, yeah, man, boom, big action sweeping song. I don't know. It's a soundtrack in the background. That'd be huge.
I mean, yeah, if we want to CGI young Colin Baker, but I'm thinking old Colin Baker could do it as old Commander Baker. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Right? He could still do this. He could still do that.
Do it. Let's do it.
Maybe there's still time before. Is the season 20 box set out now? We could squeeze this in. It's not an ending.
It's a few months away. They still got some time to film it.
Call us, Colin.
All right.
Baker, call us.
Moving on to the third question, which is, where is the Clara splinter?
Oh, I'm so looking forward to this one.
Clara Oswald, splintered in time at the end of The Name of the Doctor. She is somewhere in every single Doctor Who story, and that includes this one, because there is actual footage in The Name of the Doctor that shows Clara falling and she falls onto what looks like a glass floor, and she peers through that glass floor, and beyond it is a wavy Peter Davison in the Matrix, which is directly from this episode. So she's there. She's clearly on on Gallifrey or in the Matrix or something. What is she doing?
Now, I had to go and look at the name of the Doctor. I had to freeze frame it because you only get it for a second. Is that the shot where you see what Clara is wearing? Because your presumption might be that Clara is Time Lord Clara. We've encountered Time Lord Clara Splinter before. She's obviously the first Splinter to appear in Name of the Doctor. Directing William Hartnell to get in the busted old Type 40 TARDIS. Because you're going to have much more fun. So you might think it's her, but it's not. It is quite definitively Clara dressed in. She almost looks like Ace. She's definitely in like an 80s outfit.
Yeah, it looks like
So we can't say it's Time Lord Clara. I'm going to say it's Clara who's somehow come through from Amsterdam. She's an Amsterdam tourist.
I think
somehow been sucked into the Matrix because Omega.
But then how is she helping at all? I mean, I guess my issue is that...
That's the part where I was hoping you could take over. Like, why?
Well,
to what end?
I've got to take a step back and sort of the production of that bit in the Name of the Doctor, because there's a bunch of cuts, and a few seconds earlier, there's a scene of Clara in Dragonfire, ostensibly. So she's looking through a door with a glass window, and she's like yelling "Doctor," and on the other side of that door is Sylvester McCoy, and he's doing his infamous thing in Dragonfire where he's the literal cliffhanger where he's holding on to his umbrella, and but what she's wearing there is the leather jacket and these earrings and her hair up, so she looks a little like Ace. So I think that's what they were going for. But then they also included most of that outfit in the bit with Arc of Infinity. So she falls forward and she's wearing basically the exact same thing, except for like the shirt is different. So in the earlier one, she's wearing something red. In the Arc of Infinity thing, she's wearing something blue. My guess is that they were really trying to sort of rack up different looks and different shots with Jenna Coleman. And, it's just one of these realities of TV production. You have so much time, and some of the outfits probably we didn't even see. Some we didn't. Some were probably half done this way, that way. And they just picked what they wanted of the shots that were good and mixed it in with things that worked that she could sort of be looking at. And so like that's clearly kind of what happened, right? Because otherwise why would she be wearing sort of half the outfit and not in two different seats? So I don't. So in other words, this is giving me a get out of jail free card to not pay as much attention to the outfit, I think, as you did, because I have to conclude she is on Gallifrey and she's Gallifreyan, not necessarily a Time Lord, and that what she's doing is she's basically running OPSEC. So she's basically got a job similar to Damon and the other guy, and if any organization has decent OPSEC, what you would do, operational security, by the way, and you would change the presidential code when the president changes. You would just do that, I think. And because she's running OPSEC, she doesn't do it. She's like, okay, I'm going to keep the presidential code the same for a few centuries here, so that when he remembers it in the next visit, he's going to be able to get into this door. And so that's how that works.
Okay.
She's in charge of bad Time Lord security.
I guess she could still be a Time Lord, maybe a CIA Time Lord who is preparing to potentially go to Amsterdam if the Doctor doesn't succeed in ending Omega in Amsterdam. She will have to go in and take care of business and do cleanup. So that's why she's dressed like she could step into 1982 at any moment.
Oh, okay. So she could be maybe doing maybe she's working with Maxwell to do some serious head busting, and if the time comes,
she's Maxwell's boss.
Ooh, well, the Castellan's his boss. Maybe it's more like she's like a rival. You know what I mean? Like she and Maxwell are both vying for the Castellan's favor.
Yes, maybe she's the Castellan's boss herself, or maybe she's the real boss of it. She's pulling the strings behind the scenes in the CIA or in Division. Maybe she's the head of both of them. Who even knows how those organizations function?
Well, she's doing something there, but my guess is like she needs to be helping the Doctor in some way. So the fact that his code works is a nice callback, but it makes no sense if you're paying at all attention to security of your office. So
maybe she's sort of hammering on the glass, like trying to tell the Doctor that he's about to, Tegan is about to appear in that floaty matrix thing, and it really is her. Which sort of explains why the Doctor kind of takes it as read when he does see Tegan. Like, she's just, believe me, it's me, as if, a fake Tegan wouldn't say that.
Yeah, and I gotta say, the stuff where she goes, like, here's the location. Again, some of the I hate to slam too much on Johnny Byrne because, again, you don't want to slam too much on anyone, but it is like, it's just a little bit dumb, right? Like, it's just so on the nose and direct. Like, here she is. Oh, girl, don't tell him your exact location. And she says the exact location. Like, you kind of want to be like, really? Like, you kind of want that to be just smarter, right? Like, maybe like somehow she holds up a thing that shows Amsterdam or whatever, and maybe Omega just doesn't notice, or like pulls something out. Like, I don't know. So it doesn't. I'm just riffing here, but like something that isn't so obvious that you'd have to be just really stupid to to let the Doctor get away with doing that.
Find the best barrel organ in Amsterdam. I'm near there. She could have said. Or something more obscure about barrel organ hits, something about tulips, and the Doctor could interpret that. Instead, she gives a 3-letter code for the hostel, or no, it's the crypt place. Like, basically, it sort of feels like the only educational portion of Arc of Infinity is like, if you're stuck in Amsterdam, kids, here's how you look in the Amsterdam phone book, which is in every phone box, and you will see these codes or something. I don't.
Well, I think that was like the initials of the place that he was staying at, right? So, like, I guess that sort of works. And again, it's more like 80s detective show stuff than Doctor Who. It's unfortunate. All right, moving on to the final question. The only question that matters for Arc of Infinity. What do we think of this story? And, guys, the pull to open rating system has, of course, 6 ratings.
Yes! Sorry. Go ahead, please. Please tell us about these ratings, Pete.
There's the Dalek, which we give to a good episode of Doctor Who. The Ogron, which we give to a not so good episode of Doctor Who. The Professor Hater, which we give to a episode that was not so good, but hey, at least we learned something. At least they tried something. The Viscount Banger, which we reserve for the best of the best. The Fixed Point in Time, which is a story that is beyond rating. We can't rate it, sometimes for reasons of nostalgia, but also sometimes for other reasons. And also the Cassandra, which is what we give
Cassandra,
to a Doctor Who. Is it the Lady Cassandra or the Cassandra? We got to settle this.
Do we have a Lady Cassandra? I feel Lady Cassandra sort of distinguish her from Cassandra of historical Cassandra, who does actually feature in the Mythmakers, I believe, right?
Sure.
Yeah, we don't want to.
Okay. So, the Lady Cassandra, which is Doctor Who that looks good but isn't good, so you might want to put it on as wallpaper when you have a party.
Pretty, but has a tissue thin story. Yeah, I wish I could give this a Lady Cassandra just to flex that. I wish I could give it a Professor Hater because I wish that they tried something new, or or that we learned something from this. I'd also love to give it a Professor Hater because, of course, it is the story after the first appearance or only appearance of Professor Hater. Of course, Professor Hater's coming back for the 60th anniversary. Everyone knows that. no, it's I would have loved to have done that. I would have loved to have given it anything but the Ogron that I unfortunately have to give it. I'm sorry.
Ouchies. Yeah.
Ouchies. This is a big old smelly Ogron. I don't see anything redeeming about it. And in fact, I see negative things that, reduced my love of Doctor Who.
Not even Commander Maxwell pulls it away from the Ogron for you. Okay. Well,
Nope.
I'm referencing here, I actually think Arc of Infinity isn't as bad as it's often reputed to be. Or that perhaps you think it is. But I'm actually looking at my recent Doctor Who magazine where
I was going to ask, yes.
Where it falls in the current rankings, and it's been pretty consistent. It's ranked fairly low on the Fifth Doctor's adventures, but not at the bottom. It's sort of about, I'd say, 3/4 of the way down the list of his 20 or so adventures, and it's been ranked as low as 17th and is now ranked 16th. And I think that's about right.
Climbing.
And that's like I would maybe even rank it slightly higher than that, but it is definitely not among Davison's best. But I also don't think it's an Ogron. I do think they did try for sort of an epic Time Lord tale here, and even though they kind of fell, it's just more bland than bad, and that's not necessarily the worst. So I'm giving it a Professor Hater. Like, at least they tried something, and there are again some highlights. I really do like you get to see Nyssa shoot a bunch of people, and I think that sort of fits into her maturing arc of this season, which I'll talk about a little bit in maybe Snake Dance, and sort of leading up to her. We've already done it, but her exit in Terminus, and then Maxwell. I think kind of Maxwell saves a lot of this. That's a great guest appearance, even without the foreknowledge that he's going to be the Sixth Doctor. I mean, Colin Baker steps up and gives that character a certain amount of weight and sort of interest, and you come away just kind of impressed with that performance, and it's definitely very memorable. So
Peter, I'm not sure we should be using the word weight in the same sentence as Colin Baker, but yes, you're giving it
that's worse.
You're giving it a Professor Hater. Not even a fixed point in time for you. I thought maybe that would be your response to the conundrum of Arc of Infinity. Is like have we had a fixed point in time from you yet?
No. Like you say, my powder's still dry. I may get there with a Davison. I may. We'll see. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll pull that out for a future Davison. But right now it's a hater. I think probably because it's so close to Professor Hater. He was just in one story previous in Time Flight. So yeah.
Oh, okay, fair enough. All right, split decision. Half Ogron, half Hater. It's an Ogron in a tweed jacket and a bow tie, telling you to concentrate on fish and chips. So there it is. That's closing the book, ending the Arc of Infinity. The Arc of Infinity, thankfully, is not infinite. The Arc of Finitude might be more appropriate.
Love it.
It is time. Unless you have anything else to say about Arc of Infinity, Pete, it's time.
No, let's activate our pulse loop so Omega doesn't know where we're going, and activate the randomizer.
Yeah, I've been assured that our TARDIS has been modded so that the Time Lords can't follow us now or recall us for any reason. But it is time to talk about the randomizer. How do we work here on Pull to Open? Well, the randomizer is composed of two elements. Pete has one, the Codex, list of all of Doctor Who stories in sequential order. I have the controls of the Executor, aka random.org, which is a website that uses true randomness generated from atmospheric noise rather than the pseudo-randomness of computer algorithms, because they are notoriously bad at coming up with random numbers. We are using bespoke randomness. And before we do this, before we get back into our TARDIS and hit the button, first of all, Pete, you have to tell me how many stories in the television show of Doctor Who are left for us to talk about.
There are 210 stories still to go in the Codex.
Wow. 210. Got it.
Yep,
Okay.
210.
So the minimum number is 1, the max is 210, and we like to give challenges to the randomizer. I think I'm still a little burned by its decision last time, Pete. So, what you want to go first on this one?
Gladly. So I was very complimentary to one Colin Baker just now. I'm saying, hey, bring us back. Give us some more Colin. Somewhere in his run. Or even beyond his run. And I guess I'm probably only referring to Power of the Doctor there. But let's see him again.
Oh. I'm gonna say this felt like a really bad vacation in Amsterdam. And it's summertime. It's the end of July here is where we're recording. Everything's feeling summery and there's a vacation feel to it. Take us to a better vacation for the Doctor than his time running around in Amsterdam in search of a gloopy version of himself. Doesn't sound like the Doctor's going to give a good TripAdvisor rating. So take us to a good time that the Doctor had.
Wow. Okay, well, we've eliminated the two Doctors already, so I don't think the randomizer can successfully combine our challenges.
Yes.
So we'll see which one it tries to ignore more in just a minute here.
All right. The countdown. We'll find out.
Here we go. 4, 3, 2, 1.
I'm a champ!
76. I think we're
76. I think you might be right. Full circle.
Okay. This is Romana's last story?
Nope, not her last.
Correct? Oh,
nope.
okay.
It is Adric's first story.
Adric's first. So is it the first E-Space?
It is the first E-Space.
Okay, so the one thing that we didn't mention about Arc of Infinity, one of the connections that they draw to try and tie up continuity is they kind of slam the Doctor for not bringing Romana back. And the Doctor's like, well, she wanted to stay in E-Space.
That's right. There was a big E-Space mention. It's like, this is my problem? I can't make her come back to normal space. Like, if she wants to stay in E-Space, that's her business. Come on.
That's right.
It's a free woman. Free time lady.
Lady Time Lords have independence now, old Gallifreyan men. So I guess the randomizer wants to take us to a vacation to E-Space with Romana and find out why she loved it so much she had to stay.
Oh, okay. Well, we look forward to that and wandering around the marshes of Alzurius with y'all. Guys, this has been Pull to Open. It's a podcast. Podcasts are great things for you to subscribe to or follow in whatever app you are finding us in. Maybe you're even finding us on a web embed somewhere. I'm sure there's a follow button. Go ahead and hit it. Hey, if you're on YouTube, liking and subscribing, those are great things to do. Or even that bell icon will let you get some notifications when we have new content. You can follow us on social, Pull to Open on TikTok, Pull to Open 63 on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, and Threads. Go ahead, do all those things, but also leave a review of this podcast in whatever app we happen to be in, or a star rating. Those might be a little easier. For some reason, I'm seeing 5 stars in front of me, but you leave whatever you want. We'll see you next time for the beginning of the E-Space trilogy, which is a trilogy in the show, not necessarily
Indeed.
In the podcast, at least not yet.
Not for us. Not yet, though it may be. We have done one of them already. So it's going to be good to go back to E-Space, and we will see you all on the other side. Take care, guys.